Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. We got PHILLIP Andrew BARBB here out of LA, California, and I appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Oh man, thank you for having me. It's I got the black backdrop going.
Yeah,
you don't know what's going on back
Right?
there, man. You don't know what's happening back there.
Could be anything.
Anything. I don't know what she's doing back there. I never know what she's doing back there. Where's the meatloaf?
I love it. That's great. What so I was introduced to PHILLIP here, or Phil, by a gentleman named Evan Money. He was on the podcast. I can't wait. And like we said, I think you said it best. What I don't know.
Yeah, it's
very interesting man, like just incredible guy.
He comes out the gate.
He does
with so much energy.
It's awesome.
And it's the crazy thing, I've had so many discussions with people about this. So I promise I'll bring this all and wrap it up. I just was in Idaho for a show. And we were shooting in Idaho, and everyone was so nice that we didn't trust anyone, right? Like right. a bunch of LA TV producers and the guy at the pizza joint, super nice. And we're like, what is this guy got a screenplay he's going to try to pass off? Right? Like, who is this guy? And so there's an element of Evan Money that is that type of authentic. Authentic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm making up words now. He's just genuinely energetic and positive.
He is.
To where it makes you wonder if he's all right. You know what I mean? But the man, you get to know the guy.
Definitely who he is, though, right? Like
he's who he is. The man's got a heart of gold.
Out of that interview, and I was like, I gotta be more enthusiastic. Like, I gotta turn my energy up a little bit because I'm not that way. And I'm like, man, that like you can definitely. I came out of that feeling good. So that's
you get jazzed up with Evan Money, man. And I'm really glad that he connected us, man. And it's I appreciate it. I'm excited to see what we dive into. And
let's do it. Well, let's start with the first question I'd like to ask everybody to start off is Championship Leadership's the name of the podcast. What do you think of what does that mean to you when you hear Championship Leadership?
I've always loved studying great. I grew up, I was an athlete. I grew up in Metro Detroit, football, basketball, wrestled, baseball, all of those things. I even golfed one year just to, upset my football coaches. I was burnt. I was tired of doing wind sprints. And I was like, I'll just swing this club around.
Yeah. Right.
But, I think it's, you study great teams. Right. And I think a lot of times we can get lost in trying to think that there's a perfect person who we need to model the success of a business off of. I think, and we get in this mindset of like, everyone needs to be Jordan. It's like, no, man, not everyone can be Jordan. You got to have the Pippins. You got to have the Rodman. You got to have the Kerr. You got to have the Phil Jackson. You've got to have that entire package. In a great coach, which something that, that you do, that I do, it's not about taking the person that's in front of you and turning them into something that they're not. It's helping them be able to define where their role is, what are their strengths, what are they great at, and turning it up a little bit so that people don't completely, when you try to be something you're not, you can only pretend for so long. If Evan Money's thing, if this was all a ruse, right? He's going to crash and burn hard, right? It's got to be authentic. Yeah. And I think when it comes to great teams, you've got to take a lot of different people that have different motivators, different ambitions, different skill sets. And it's not about turning them into some robot worker. It's about how do you find what each person needs so that they can be, the best version of themselves. But honestly, like be able to show up and be able to perform the way that they want to be performing for themselves as well as for the team. And so I think it's, championship, right? Like it brings those moments of glory, hand raised, trophy in the air.
Yeah.
But the truth is, and we know it, it's the moments. It's to get to that moment. It's the little things every day. It's everyone doing their part. And it's tough. It's hard to get up it's hard to do a podcast and keep booking people and keep putting it out there and keep sending the email blast. It's demoralizing at times when you're, and you see a Joe Rogan and you're like,
Yeah, $100
money.
million. It's like, come on.
Oh my God. Exactly. And so I think that's right. I think that's one of the great things about, about leadership is we all need it from time to time. The best leaders have a cabinet that are there to, to keep them motivated. And I think that there's times, and I even have to remind myself of this. I can't just be pouring into people.
Yeah.
I got to make sure that I'm having people pour into me as well.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
So I think that that's, leadership is such a key thing. It's not optional, man.
Yeah.
It's not optional at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a few things there, like Joe Rogan, number one, like he's been in the game since almost the beginning, right? Like
Totally.
he's like the
$100 million
contract didn't come on week one.
And they used to make fun of him.
So many episodes out.
Yeah. When he was doing comedy, he started doing it. And so many of his comedy buddies were like, dude, what are you doing? Rogan, knock this off,
all
bro.
his comedy buddies have their own show, right?
Everybody, right? Yeah. It's like, you, in comedy, it used to be like, who's your manager? Now it's like, hey, what's your podcast?
What's your podcast?
Like, because, I think there's something amazing. One of the things that, right, a lot of people get down on podcasts because the numbers have just soared of new podcasts, right?
Right.
And it's so hard to break through, and it's, all these things, right?
It is.
But the thing that helped me so much, right? You're a speaker, I'm a speaker. One of the things that helped me so much is when you're doing the podcasts, and I would, send this out to any listeners that are thinking about maybe either starting a podcast or getting on podcasts. It's not just about getting on and crushing the interview, it's about the reps. It's the repetition of getting in, learning how to listen, learning when to say, learning how to phrase things. What are the, I remember one of the first podcasts I did, I was talking like this. It was a mile a minute. I sounded like I had money, and I was like going crazy because I was so excited. And I wanted to get in. And I remember my father listened to it, and my dad was like, "Hey, bud, good job, but maybe slow down a little bit. How much coffee did you have?
Yeah, take a breath."
And those are things you only learn in doing the reps.
Yeah, that's so true. I just had a good friend of mine. He randomly left a message talking about my podcast. He's like, "Hey, I just listened to your Tito Ortiz," and he's like, "It's like, bro, you've come so far, like from the first ones, like just the quality, the interview, like how, just how you handle yourself, just more polished." And I was like, yeah, of course. Right. You do anything over and over, you get those reps. I probably got like 150 or 60 interviews now, podcast episodes. And, which is awesome. I better be getting better, right? Like I better be getting better.
And that was, it was funny. So for me with coaching, right? Like when I got into coaching, I didn't start as a personal development coach. I started, I'm my normal 9 to 5, what my main career is, I'm a television producer in Los Angeles. Yeah, and so for me, where coaching began was on set. Coaching began working with, I was working with actors and business owners and just random people that were on reality shows, whatever it was, in helping them be more comfortable on camera, helping them be able to phrase their words correctly. And so it was funny because as I started to do much more almost media coaching, for every 1 or 2 people that I saw they just needed reps.
Yeah.
That's really all they needed. There was another, and then what really kind of steered me more into personal development was I started seeing for every 1 or 2 people that just needed reps, there were 8 to 10 that were just getting in their own way.
Yeah.
With with the limiting thoughts, I'm not ready yet, or what would I say, or I can't do that, or all of the BS that's, behind it. Yeah. And so that was kind of what helped me lead more into personal development coaching rather than just the media coaching. It's, we joke about needing to be energetic, or, you watch a podcast, you see a Russell Brand and he's a maniac. So you feel like, do I need to be that? And the truth is the only thing that any of us are really good at is being ourselves. Yeah. And whether that's some guys, like, who is it? Sam Elliott? That dude's not energetic, but damn it, if you don't listen to every word that man says.
Yeah, I love it. Every time he talks, like my mom, like every time she hears Sam Elliott, she's like in love, right? Yeah.
Right. and so because there's an authenticity to it, and it's such a word we throw around all the time, but there is truth to like when we're looking for leadership, or when we're looking at what type of a leader do we want to be, we can steal elements from, I like this about this guy, or I like this about this person, or this woman does it well this way, or I like this. But it needs to then get put into us and filtered out as us. And because nobody wants to be led by a robot. No one wants to be led by some dude that read one Tony Robbins book and now he's spewing everything that Tony said from 92 with Awaken the Beast Within, or whatever the hell the damn book was, you know. And it's like, so I think it's all about, it's learning, it's growing, it's building the confidence in ourselves so that we can then instill confidence on other people.
Yeah. And like you said, I mean, just like in that industry or any industry, I mean, you just got to be yourself. You can't be somebody else. And same as a leader, like we all lead in different ways. You know, I don't want to get too much into what's going on right now, but you know, there's people talking about, if you're not saying anything right now, like I'm taking notes, like that's supposed to mean I'm a racist or something like that. I'm like, no, I'm being careful. I'm being cautious. I'm not, and maybe I'm not posting on social media, but I'm out like in my community, bringing people together and uniting people. And so like we all live life, do life, and lead, especially as championship leaders. If you try to lead like somebody else, you're going to fail. But when you, like, if you're Sam Elliott, then you own Sam Elliott inside of leadership and you crush it. So yeah, I mean, that's huge. Like you said, the Jordan thing, you don't, like if you had 8 Jordans on the team, they'd lose every game. They wouldn't be able to play together. Right?
No way, dude. You
didn't try to make Steve Kerr Jordan.
Exactly.
You just wanted to bring out the best in Steve Kerr.
I will say I read this thing and it made me feel, so you know, one of my hobbies, I like to smoke cigars with buddies, and you know, I'm a sober guy. I don't do any drugs. I felt like I needed some sort of thing that was bad for me.
Gotta have cigars, right?
Yeah, I gotta have cigars, right? And then I saw the thing. A buddy sent me an article where Jordan talked about how he like smoked a cigar before every home game.
No way.
In Chicago. Because they said in this, right, like somebody please fact check it, because I'm going to feel like an idiot if I'm running around. But he said, so basically he lived far enough away from the stadium in Chicago. You know, Chicago has almost, I think they got worse traffic than us in LA. Yeah. And it was like an hour and a half drive for him to get from home to the game. And he used to get, I don't know if it was anxiety or he just like uneasy driving that long in a car to the game. Yeah. So to chill out, he'd smoke a cigar. So it's like, here you go. I got this guy top of his game. And I like, you know, of course me, I'm just like Jordan. I'm gonna smoke a cigar. You know, it's like Stephen Pressfield has a great quote, something about like the only thing that's similar between you and a Navy SEAL is the quitting bell. You know, you know, like as much as, you know, I'll tell you what, there is something interesting in that. And I don't know if this makes me seem weak or if this brings, you know, any encouragement to somebody out there, but you know, I'm a cops kid, man. I grew up always idolizing military and police and I watched wrestling, right? Hulk Hogan and these big, larger than life, big fucking strong people. Sorry, I swore. I don't know if you'll cut it out later. You're good. And you know, we got these big
body
guys,
slamming the giant, man.
Right, exactly. And you saw that. And there's an element of like, and it's not in that being who we are. I also have to remember, like, I'm not a Navy SEAL, man. Yeah. Like, I'm not Bobby Axelrod in Billions. You know what I'm saying? And it's not me saying, oh, I'm not that good or I can't do those things. But it's me owning who I am and owning what I want, not what I think that what they wanted or what other people expect me to want. And there's a certain element of like, hey man, I'm going to play Call of Duty every now and again with my buddies. Yeah. You know, I'm going to have days where I normally get up and I get up whenever I say I'm going to get up, but I'm going to have a Saturday every now and again where I'm going to get up when I wake up. And I think that's, you know, there's a lot of these thoughts in personal development, and especially in male, masculine, you know, Gary V, you know, what's his, Jocko, wake up 4 a.m. right?
He's taking pictures of the watch every morning.
And we love these guys, right? Yeah. And they're inspiring and it's great. But it's also important for us to each individually know that like we have to figure out what is the leadership style that works for us. what is the system that works for us? If you wake up at 4 a.m. and you do it for 6 months straight and you hate your life, then that's not for you, man. Like that's not the point, because people that are not unhappy in their situation are not going to be the best leaders. They're going to be faking it. They're going to be jaded. You can keep it together on a long enough timeline, but it's going to fall apart. So it's really like we have to make sure that we're taking those times to check in with ourselves. I always say, I try to live life at the intersection of absolute ambition and complete contentment. Yeah. And it's like, and if I can, yeah, totally. Right. And it's like, but if I can hold that space, right. If I can want more and want to keep pushing and want to keep growing and learning and make more money and having bigger impact, that's great. But I also got to be appreciative of like, yo, I'm very blessed where I'm at. I'm super lucky to like have had the experiences I've had. Because if I get too much on either side, if I get too content, then I'm playing way too much Call of Duty. And if I get way too ambitious without that contentment, man, I start becoming a robot. And it's like, and that's not living, it's not living at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to fall in that Jocko trap or whatever. And it's like, hey, Rogan's talked about it. Like, that's Jocko. That's who he is. Like, yeah, own who you are, figure out what it is that works for you. Don't beat yourself up. Like, if you're in the comparison game, that's where you fall into that trap. So totally. That's perfect. Like, we haven't even made it past the first question here.
Hey, I'll let you roll in. I'll start cutting it in.
No, it's perfect. I love it. But if you could just tell the listeners a little bit more about Phil and who you are, and what you're up to, and how you've gotten to where you are today from Detroit to LA.
Yeah, man. Well, I assume, if people are still here, you're interested. Awesome. I've won. That little kid inside me that wants everyone to like me. He's cheering right now. But no, and thank you to everybody that's still listening and hanging out with us. We appreciate you guys.
Totally.
And so, I grew up in Metro Detroit. Was the son of a cop. My mother was involved in school board, and kind of grew up, little town just on the southwest border. And the quick story for me, right, is I grew up that total perfectionist little kid that wanted to do everything right, wanted to be the poster child, like saw, my dad, my mother, who they were in the community, and always wanted to. I thought that my last name was really important, and I started to put all this pressure on myself as like a 6, 7, 8-year-old, right? One of those kids.
Sure.
That teacher's pet, little asshole kid, like that you like the kid, but you wanted to like throw him in a closet sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think for me, it was, I grew up hanging out with a lot of older kids, and, I desperately wanted to fit in and have their approval, and, did a lot, was very susceptible to peer pressure and all those things. And so, as I kind of went through school, as a lot of those guys were, I was on the honor roll doing all that stuff, but I felt like I also was kind of grown up with a handful of knuckleheads, right? So I like wanted to be that kid. So it was like, I wanted to be rebellious, but I wanted to be the good, perfect kid. So I started to develop the mask of like, who do I behave when I'm out with my family? Who do I behave when I'm out with these people, with the, different groups of people? I had those different masks and filters in which I would put on and operate life. And as we've talked about, it's super disingenuous, and it sucked, right? Like you start especially as a little kid. And so, the long story short, as these kids, when they started hitting 14, 15, 16, and they started getting into drugs and alcohol and doing things, I was 11, hanging out with them, wanting to fit in. So I started drinking when I was 11 years old, started getting drunk, drinking to get drunk at 11, 12. And, and started kind of, and it kind of was that first moment, right, when I would drink that, like, there were a lot of things that happened. I felt like I felt like I was there. I was doing what the older kids were doing. I felt manly, masculine, all that BS. But also, like, I didn't really care. I didn't really care what my last name was. It was alcohol for me was a temporary way for me to just get in the moment and stop living so far in the future or worrying about what I said yesterday. And am I going to fix? And it let me settle and calm. And, long story short, right? Like anyone that you probably guess where the story is going, right? Yeah. It's not a smart thing for 11, 12, 13-year-old to be looking to alcohol to do those things for you.
Right.
And then as I got into high school, that continued. Was still on the honor roll, still was playing sports, doing all the Midwest kids, stereotypical Midwest kid things. Yeah. but my mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 14 years old, and when I was 15, she passed away.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, you take a kid that's 15 years old, mother's gone, trying to figure it out. I've already been experimenting with alcohol for a while. I saw that as a bit of a temporary solution, and it was just bad news, man. I started drinking a lot, partying a lot, desperately wanted to be like Stifler from American Pie, right? Like I wanted to be that, you're right. I wanted to be that guy. I wanted all the girls. I wanted to be the wild guy at the party. I wanted to be, you know, I was the guy running around naked like an idiot at parties, doing that type of stuff. And, you know, 18 ended up, you know, got arrested. 19 got arrested, 20 got arrested for all alcohol related stuff, still going through school, still overachieving. And, you know, I graduated college a semester early. I finished Michigan State University in 3.5 years because I was just like, I could get through stuff, but like I was in a lot of pain deep down underneath. And finished college, got ready to move to LA to work in entertainment, and I got arrested for a 4th time for a DUI. And it was like, that was, you know, I was 22 years old, was getting ready to leave. It was 11 days before I moved to LA, and then boom, right? Like this finally. And I felt like for a long time I knew there was something up. I knew there was a lot of like deep pain and sadness behind it, but I didn't really know, right? Like you kind of felt like something's off, but I'm 22, man. I'm an idiot. And I mean, I'm 34 now. I'm not the smartest guy. So it was like, you know, but what happened to me was like, I got court ordered into, you know, a treatment program. And I kind of was finally, you know, in a weird way. And this is something I always have to remind myself of. For all my ego and all of my boldness and my ability to, you know, I started DJing when I was 17. So I had always been able to talk to people and get in front of people. For all of that external strength. Yeah. Deep down, I did not have the ability to say I have a problem. Yeah. You know, it took the state of Michigan and, you know, to hit me and say, yo, man, like knock it off, like get some help. And I think we have to remind ourselves of that we can know something is wrong, but we don't having that difficulty matching the intellectual connection with the emotional connection that we actually need help. And we have to, as leaders, not only understand that for ourselves, but understand it for our people. Understand that person that's really being an ass at work, and you just don't get it. And how can they not see it? They probably see it, but they don't know how to pinpoint it. And they don't. And here's the thing that's scary. When we are asking questions of our lives, of who we are, of what to do, and we don't have an answer, we feel dumb. We feel stupid. We feel like that little kid that raised her hand, or that the teacher made us raise our hand and we didn't have the answer, right? Like it's demoralizing. So a lot of times people that are acting out in the office, you know, at the plant, wherever whatever your workplace is, the people that are acting out, there's probably something deeper underneath, and they don't actually know how to ask for that help. So instead of, you know, the ridicule or the, you know, coming down on somebody or trying to make an example of somebody, like, you know, empathetic leadership is like being able to just have a conversation with someone and check in with them. Like, hey man, what's going on? Are you all right? What's happening? Right? Like, in really giving somebody an opportunity. You know, one of the things that I experienced, and I'm sure you've experienced it, right? Like in coaching, is like sometimes all you got to do is shut the hell up and listen to someone. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And we do it so rarely, right? Social media, our jobs, everything is on loud. I'm throwing information at you. Here, listen to what I got going on. And we're shouting, but no one's hearing each other. And so it's like the second you can take, you know, an employee or someone on your team and just talk with them and actually genuinely listen without an agenda and just being genuinely curious about where they're going, it opens the door for people to be able to like express what's going on. And we can get in. At the end of the day, leadership is all about finding issues, overcoming those issues, helping take your people from where they're at and getting them where everyone needs to go. It's that simple. Yeah. So in my story, right, that was one of the beautiful things that I learned was, you know, I got forced into it, and thank God it didn't get worse. And I'm so grateful that I got sober at 22 and I got my things figured out so that I didn't I wasn't, 34 having these issues, or
Right.
I mean, I was an asshole, man.
Yeah.
Straight up. And
Yeah.
so I'm very grateful to it. And so that's kind of, the story of like, that's such a big defining moment for my life. And, now I'm involved in a lot of, still involved in, speaking with inmates that, have alcohol and substance abuse issues. I speak at high schools to, high school kids and college kids about these things. And, I actually don't coach a lot of sobriety stuff. I kind of leave that, I try to stick more with, emotional intelligence, leadership skills, strategy building, goal setting in coaching. But it's such a big part of who I am and what makes me drive, and what makes me tick and where I want to help. Because I've had so many people that like gave me so much, that I didn't earn and I didn't deserve, right? Like I got a lot of people that stuck their neck out and really helped me along the way. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's like, I would be a complete ass to continue, to not be appreciative of it and want to give it back, and right. And I'm still a businessman, right? Still want to make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. Absolutely. No reason not to. So where does being a TV producer fall into all of this, and how does that help the mission I think that you're on as well, to really just help others learn from you and what you've done in your life, and maybe some of the mistakes you've made along the way too?
Yeah, man. I think, TV is really fun. I've always loved entertainment. And I think, there's one of the things that, sometimes you work on a project you love, and sometimes you work on projects that, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. When I was younger, right? Like I had that part where it's like, I only want to work on things that like save the universe, right? Right. And then, we all go through that, right? That 7-year itch of whatever career we're in. Is this where I should be? Blah, blah. And I ended up having to realize, like, wait a minute, it's not about me getting onto a project and it being what I want. It's about like, how can I come into a project and serve everyone there? And here's the thing, anyone can work when you're having a blast, right? Yeah. It's like, can you show up day in, day out when it's not necessarily like the most fun thing or what you're the most interested in, but can you make the decision to show up and perform, not only for yourself and for your own happiness, but for the happiness of the team, for the happiness of the show, to progress, to move things in a positive way for everyone involved. And getting outside of like the world revolving around Phil, like I love leading teams on set. Also, hey, not hating on anyone in entertainment, but a lot of us get into it because we liked creating stuff. We didn't go to school to get business degrees, and we don't go to leadership conferences, right? So in a lot of people experience this, right? Even not in entertainment, but if you work in sales, you see a guy who crushes in sales, then he gets promoted, but the dude has no management experience. Yeah, totally. So now it happens, right? And that's what happens in TV a lot of times. Sure. So I love being able to be on set in organizing things and putting out the fires, what's happening. I mean, we're working 12-hour days, 14-hour days, 5-6 days a week. Lots of money is on the line with your networks. So it's important to be constantly thinking of like, people are getting tired. People are getting beat down. One scene didn't go the right way. It rained when it shouldn't have. And now we had to set this whole thing back, and it pushes the whole schedule. And it's being able to, excuse me, find, hey, what are the solutions? But also not just the logistical solutions, but like, how do you take care of your people? When I first got in, when I was a high school kid doing media productions, I remember like we would write it, we'd develop it, we'd write it, we'd shoot it, we'd edit it, we did everything, we acted in it, we did it all. And so I thought when I got to LA, that's what it would be. Yeah. And then you get to LA, as many people get to, you get into your business or what, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot of different segments, and those people don't talk to those people, and that group doesn't go with this group, and those guys can't even look at a camera. Like there's all these different rules. Sure. And so being able to be a producer is being able to see the entire system, the camera guys, the audio team, my talent, the agents, the networks. You have to see all of it, these groups that don't, and you're the connection piece. Yeah. And you're the piece that has to be able to make sure you're taking care of people that are, the hours, while still making sure the network is happy with the finished product and you're not going over budget. So there's a lot of moving parts that I never knew we're going to be part of that life. You know, for me, I was a, you know, TV and film major with a minor in business administration. So I love it because I get to flex a lot of these different muscles. And, you know, it's also one of those things where I do enjoy the hard work. I enjoy the, you know, creating new things. I still have that ego of being a little kid of, I work in Hollywood, I'm a TV producer,
Right.
you know, I still got that going.
Of course.
And I think it's, you know, one of the things is there's just so much, you know, there's a lot of opportunity, right? In especially in a city like Los Angeles, where you've got so much entertainment, so many people come here to, you know, if you get the major agencies that are here. So this just, it makes sense that this was a place that I was going to be. It's hard, man. It's a hard life out here. Like, no joke. Like, you know, you guys know, go, you know, if you don't believe me, go look on Zillow and look at how much a house, you know what I'm saying? And,
Totally.
but I think it's really helped shape a lot of things and being able to juggle a lot. And it totally has helped with coaching. You know, there was that moment, and I'm sure a lot of people experience this, right? We're in the entrepreneur days where, like, we're all slashes, right? Like, no, we all got 100 things that we're working on, and you know, and which is kind of normal nowadays. But we get, you know, you can get lost in that thing of, like, should I only be doing one thing? You know, oh my God, everyone's telling me that I got to go all in. I got to burn these boats. They keep telling me to burn the boats.
Burn the boats.
And, burn the boats. And, you know, the one thing that I'll say is I feel like it's, you know, I used to have this moment where I was trying to keep these worlds different. Phil the coach and Phil the TV producer. Hell, Phil the DJ, right? I'll still DJ at bar mitzvah every now and again.
That's awesome.
But then, like, I sat with somebody and they were like, yo, man, you got to also realize, they're like, your success in TV is authority into why you can be a great coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
But once again, me in my own head, it took somebody other than me to see that, because for me, I was like, oh, well, I don't want people to think that I'm not dedicated to TV. And what if I'm, you know, I don't want them to think that I'm just another guy in LA who's a speaker coach, you know, magician,
you're a
astronaut.
coach.
Being a coach in LA is like being an actor. It's like the new actor. But you know, but it took somebody outside of me to be like, hey man, no, like, that's authority in that space. And that's after reading all the branding books and reading all the shit. And it's like, we could only do so much on our own. Right. And I like the team dynamic. I like to do a lot of things alone. But I think it is one of those things where it's just, you know, I guess if you had to put a theme on today, it would be like just being honest with yourself about who you are.
Absolutely.
And getting feedback from other people.
Which I think is big. I think that's a lot of people need to hear that. Yeah. If you're a coach, you maybe you tend to start thinking like everyone knows that, but everyone does not know that. Like, that's the one thing I will say that I you know, it's so easy to discredit like the work that we put in, right? Like, there's times where, you know, like you're like, oh, well, this stuff seems very simple now. It's like, it wasn't simple. Like, you read 98 books on this shit. You know, like you've been engulfed in it, and it's not simple. And in a way of like, yes, that should make us feel good that, like, we have, you know, I'm speaking for all coaches now, which I don't like to do, but you know, while we do have knowledge and we have things to offer people, it's also understanding that, like, you don't know it until you learn it. And so, like, a lot of times some of my best clients forget that they're really smart people. They forget that they're really hardworking. And not everyone is as smart, or not everyone is as hardworking as they are. Right.
And they don't get it. And we have to remind ourselves, as much as it's important for us to own who we are and lean into it, we can want to enhance and help people, but we can't change who they are. We got to be able to help and support, and we can't make assumptions about the fact that everyone has the same knowledge base as us. Because the second that I do that, not only do I discredit the hard work I've put in, but I also blind myself to the fact that I have a lot of blind spots in my game, and I need to consistently be learning from other people. I got to have both, man. Because I'm an egotistical little kid that wants everything done my way and thinks that I'm the smartest guy in the room. So
Yeah,
I need
absolutely.
it. I need that ego check every now and again.
Yeah, the coaches need coaches too, right? So
100%.
if they don't have one, you need to run
Don't
the other
trust
way.
them.
Yeah,
Don't trust
go
the coach that
somebody,
doesn't have a
go
coach,
find
man.
somebody else for sure. So, well, I appreciate you taking time, and I know you got a hard stop here coming up. So, I'll wrap this up. Let's wrap it up with this. If there's one or two things you could leave with the listeners that would help them, if they implemented it today, would help them move forward today, what would that be?
You know, one of the first things I always start with is a gratitude list, man. Like it's so key, and it sounds so cheesy, and it almost sounds like cliche at this point in our world. It's a cliche because it works
For a reason.
and it's that simple. You know, like I remember when gratitude lists were tough, and now it's something that like I can tell when I haven't been doing one. You know, finding the little things to be grateful for in our lives makes us just start to shift, and we see different things in different people. You know, I think so I would say a gratitude list is key. You know, one of the other things that is so simple, because I like tactical, simple things.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, write down one thing you want to get done tomorrow. Right? Like give yourself a break, end the work day, right? You're not a machine. Don't work 15 hours a day.
Right.
Like pump the brakes.
Yeah.
But give yourself a starting point for tomorrow. Like what's tomorrow's big thing? What's the biggest thing that's important that you need to accomplish tomorrow? I think that some of those are right. There's so many books about building the 6-month plan and the 3-month plan, and that stuff's all great, but it can be very easy to lose ourselves in like, hey man, it's Thursday, right? Like what's today? Like, how do I enjoy today? What are the things? And I don't have to do it all at once. Right. And I think that probably goes back from me being a sobriety guy. Like
sure.
One day at a time is a cliche because it's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know, one day at a time. I can only be in this moment right now with you having this discussion. And although if you're watching this, I'm doing something else. I don't know what I'm saying now.
And mom is in the background making the meatloaf. So
yeah, mom, meatloaf. Where's the meatloaf?
It's incredible. Like I resonate with that. That's a big piece of me too. I'm always saying like, what's the one thing you got to do today? Like if you just did that one thing and you did that every day, like your life would change for sure.
I always say earn your sleep.
Yeah.
Earn that peace that comes when you lay your head on that pillow. You know, when you lay your head on that pillow, man, and you feel like, yeah, man, like this was not, yeah, we won the game. We won, like, pouring champagne. But that moment of like, this was, hey, I put in work. I earned it. I could sleep. I could rest easy. And we're going to get up tomorrow and we're going to crush it again. But today was a good day. And it's like, I think that those are those that like, we're chasing peace, man. We can talk about the money and success and power. And I think the vast majority of us, we just want to be peaceful, man. We want to have peace and calm and feel good. Like we're good.
I was actually thinking of this the other day. I was like, and I think that peace or that happiness or whatever you want to call it does come through like doing hard things, doing things,
totally,
like just
man.
doing things, accomplishment of like, hey, I got the thought was this guy was painting like the outside overhang of his door. And I'm like, how many people actually do that? How many people just walk by and be like, man, I need to paint that? Cause I thought of myself when there's a door that I need to paint that I've been looking at and saying the same thing for 3 years. I'm like, this dude's doing it and he's going to get done. And he's going to have a little time at the end of the day. He might have a sparkling water or a beer on the porch, but he's going to like, I got that done. Got it off the list.
Done, man.
He earned his sleep.
He earned his sleep on that day, right? And if we can end a lot of days where we felt like we earned the sleep, dude, then I think we're gonna, we set ourselves up because here's the other thing, the alternative is demoralizing on a long enough timeline.
Yeah.
Right. If we all have an ego, and
you just beat yourself down because you
just beat yourself down, didn't do it. Oh, it's another one. I didn't do it. It's like,
right.
Grab the paint. Get the shit done. Earn your sleep.
Probably took him 30 minutes. Yeah. So,
yeah. Hey, man, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. And I will say, I'm just throwing this out there. If you're still listening to this thing, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And hey, if there's someone in your world that you feel that that they need to hear this or they would appreciate it, please send, share it out to them. Not only does it help, Nate works really hard on this thing. Not only does it help him be able to kind of, grow and get, have more stuff, but, that's one of the great things that podcasting allows is maybe with something I said or something Nate said resonated with a viewer enough to where it can benefit somebody else. So that's what we're here to do, is take care of each other, help each other. And so if you feel so compelled, please, do that. And also, if you guys want to reach out to me, PhillipAndrewLA@gmail.com. You can hit me up. I'm on all the social media platforms as @PhillipAndrewLA, and reach out. Let me know if you got an idea for a TV show. I can make it happen.
I love it. The producer just took charge and wrapped it up for us. I love it. And yes, please do check Phil out. And thank you for being here, man. Really do appreciate it. It's been a blast. So
thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. Where's my meatloaf?
Meatloaf.
All right. Have a good day, brother.